Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. Speaking of the adventures of our lifetime, there are some people that I really enjoy, and there are some people that I really enjoy, and this is one of those. She's and I have worked together for, gosh, what seems today like years. And
it is actually.
It is. And Anne Scottlin is with us, and she is an amazing, she was an actress, she's a podcaster, she's a podcast promoter, she is an author, she does all kinds of wonderful stuff, travels all over the world and stuff, and wears some of the finest hats known to man.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin.
So it's great to have you here, my dear. It's been a long time. How you been?
I have been good. It's been a crazy year. Life happens and things get crazy, but the good news is you can choose to be positive or you can choose to be miserable. And I have chosen to be positive, and good things just keep happening. So, you deal with challenges, family and illnesses and all those things, but also the sun still comes up every day. So much to be grateful for.
Especially where you are. It's either snowing or sunning. One of the
Yes, it's sunning today. It's hot. It's wonderful, actually.
And you're out in your yard doing landscaping, and you're a jack of all trades, as it were.
I know. Sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? Yeah, we have this huge turnaround, like a driveway turnaround. It's not huge. It's probably like 45 feet by 30 feet. And
that's pretty
big. And the front half of it that faces the road and the neighbors has been just kind of gone to weeds because I'm traveling and it's never been really done. So I decided to get creative because, I always say for just keeping healthy, you need to be creative outside your professional job. Keep your mind excited and creative doing other things as well. So I decided to just landscape the front half of it. The back is still pretty good. And from scratch, I have been turned over soil. Okay, hard soil, clay that's been baked in the sun with wild grass in it for 4 days. And I have about a 3 by 3 foot patch waiting when I get back to finalize it.
See, you do things in a different way than I do. You get out the shovel and you go do that. I get out the checkbook and
I know. Yeah, well, I figured after a crazy year, this was a really good cathartic way to just like let the muscles do the talking. And it gets satisfaction out of doing. I get satisfaction out of doing busy kind of stuff. Not always, but I don't clean my house, for example, ever. No.
Well, so you do get your checkbook out for that.
I do, because I will pick it up, but no. I don't know why. My mother was a home ec teacher back in the day. I'm sure she's terribly disappointed in me, but I'll tell you why, Kevin. When you run around the edges with this like perfectionistic personality,
yeah,
cleaning is impossible because it's never actually done. Like there's one eyelash on the mirror, or there's like, it makes me literally insane. So when other people do it, I'm fine. Or I blame them. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, what happens to me is that I'll schedule somebody to come in and clean my house. Then I'll look at my house and go, boy, this is really a mess. I don't want anybody to see this. So I'll clean up before the cleaning people get there. It's stupid.
No, but I have to do that too, because when you work a lot from home and you have people over all the time and you have pets and it's just, you have to. And I travel a lot. So my mom always kids me whenever she comes over, there's 2 suitcases with stuff in them open in my bedroom. And she's like, what is this? I'm like, well, this is the one I just came back from with. And this is the one I'm packing. And I'm trying to do laundry in the middle.
It must be exciting being you, traveling all over the place and stuff. Are you still doing stuff? Are you still acting and stuff in LA?
Not so much lately, kind of since the last writer's strike. I've just kind of been taking a bit of a break and focusing more on my own shows, my own video podcasting, audio shows, and yeah, it's something I may be diving back into at some point. But right now, I've just enjoyed taking a little sabbatical, if you will.
We're living in a marvelous time because what we get to do is like 20 years ago. I mean, when I first started in radio, I had this 2 hour show, and they would give me a CD at the end of each hour. And they didn't record it, they didn't keep it, they didn't do anything with it. I have the CDs; they're still in my closet. A box of
Wow.
CDs from back then, but you couldn't do it on your own. There was no place for you to go and become a podcaster to learn how to do the editing and all the things that and the writing. So we live in a very creative time. It really is kind of cool to watch, isn't it?
It is very cool. And even with regard to film, I mean, there's so many award-winning independent films and even short films too. There's no limit to what you can, well, there's some limits, but what you can even produce yourself. So we have all the tools now, and you can even, if you can find the funding, you're good to go. So yeah, it's a really fun, exciting time to be able to be creative and be seen. If that's your thing, you can produce your own shows, you can make your own movies, you can self-publish your own books. None of this was possible a couple decades ago. So it's a really exceptional time, a great opportunity.
Well, one of the things that you don't know about, because we haven't talked in a while, is that on the Bloom TV network, we actually produced a 30-minute show, and we used cell phones and a drone to do the overhead shots and the everything, and it came out just beautifully. And I even did a guided meditation. One
Wow.
so that was so it's amazing what we can do with just a little elbow grease, creativity, and time. Given I had to laugh at myself. I was talking with my team and was going, "Hey, you know what we should do is we should do kind of a man on the streets kind of thing, and go out and to talk to people about their lives and being positive and stuff." And I said, "But we have to figure out how to get a microphone that'll work digitally that we can do." And they're looking at me like I've lost my mind because they said, "Do you have they said to me, "Do you have a phone?" And they said, "Well, yeah, just use your phone. What's the matter with you?" And because in the olden days, you had to have a mic set up and you had to have, directional things, and you had to have wind block and all that. You don't have to do any of that now. It's really is pretty cool if you are a creative. It's really cool to do that. And what I love about what you're doing, Miss Maestro, is that even though you are a creative, you are being creative on behalf of people who ain't so much or who are too busy, and they would love to do a podcast or a program and out there, but they just don't have the time. They don't want to learn it. They don't have the expertise. And so you kind of take them from beginning to end and put the whole thing together for them, and that for some folks that really helps them a lot.
Yes, it's the orchestrator, right? So that's where the maestro came from, actually, was the the
Yes.
conductor, right? Yes. So I've been podcasting and doing shows and producing and worked in Hollywood for so long now that I thought, I think I would just love to help other people be successful with their shows. There's so many, I'm really focusing on people that are an expert in their field, or they're very specialized in something. Many of these people have had very, very illustrious careers, or they're, well-known authors, or they're, it's whatever you are. It could also be hospital CEOs. It could be executive businessmen and women. It could be anything where they have something to share, but they literally don't have time. And people have said, "Oh, it is such a loss in the world that you're not sharing this incredible information that you have." either whether that's for humanitarian purposes, whether that's to help other people with their businesses. So I say, come on in. The Podcast Maestro, I'll offer you a plug and play, basically, is what I do for them. From depending on what they want, from literally creating their outlines for their show, to co-hosting if they absolutely need that, to coaching, to production, full production with a producer, post, editing, clips, even put it up on all their own social media if that's what they want me to do. So it's really, you just have to show up to tape. I do a whole season of 10 episodes, and so we can knock that out in 2 or 3 weeks often, and then you go back to doing what you do. And all of this is remote, of course. So video podcasting, audio podcasting. Of course, my favorite, because I like film, is video podcasting and getting people out there, getting their face recognized.
Exactly. And you being who you are and being an actor for so long, you're able to take people and to help them learn how, because there's a real art form to being a good podcast host. It's not like anything else. It's kind of like being in radio, but it's not really like being in radio. It's different than that. And you're able to help people to teach them. It's almost like you're an acting coach at the same time.
It is actually, and that's literally part of it. Like I took, this is kind of the newest division of my company and my business, and I was talking to one of my illustrious business coaches who lives in Dubai, and I said, here, look at, here's all my life experience and everything, and I want to do something new and different, and something that makes an extra great income, and show me what is the thing. And we worked it down. And he's like, this is absolutely what you should be doing. He's like, you have the experience, you have the eye, you have the know-how, you have the instinct. And so it's been really, really fun and really satisfying. It's, when you get to do, as something that you already love to do and help people, which, as is pretty much what I want to do in life in general. It's a really great opportunity. And there's so many people who are, again, experts in one way or another, but they really could be a thought leader in their field if they had a global voice. Not everyone's going to read published academic papers. Maybe you're a professor, but they will probably watch and listen to your podcast. So if you want to get your message out in a helpful way, if you have a positive, if you have an intent, a mission behind something that you want to get out there, then it's really great and it's really fun.
And not only are you doing that, but you're also an author, and the book Live for Joy is out there. I have a copy. It's right over here, and it's a great book, and I highly encourage people to go get Live for Joy by Anne Scottlin. It's a great, and you can get it on Amazon and all that kind of stuff. And what decided you to it's kind of like my resume. I look at my resume and I go, if you read it, it's like the guy can't keep a job because I've done so many different things. In your world, it's like you're an actress, you're an author, you're a podcaster. Can't you settle down and do like one thing? What's the matter?
It's called being a serial entrepreneur, I'm afraid. I just love being creative and doing new things. I love challenges. So yeah, Live for Joy was a book that really came from the social media following that I had built during my time in Hollywood and elsewhere. I was posting a lot of original philosophy, inspiration, motivation on Twitter and other platforms back then, and always including a lot of graphics and art that worked right with it. It was a whole experience. And my followers, it was a real hit. It still is. And my followers started asking for a book. They're like, why don't you put this in a book? And I said, it's a really good idea. Why don't I? So that was how the beautiful book was born. Live for Joy. It's such a gorgeous coffee table book, honestly, but also just really touching and healing and hopeful. I think it's over 300 pages. Haven't actually thought of the page numbers for a while, but I just had a friend who I haven't talked to, or a business acquaintance actually, reach out to me yesterday and say, hey, how are you? Um, how can I get an autographed copy of your book with like a personal message? Because I want to give it to one of my friends who is fighting with cancer. And I think it would really be something to encourage her along. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. That's exactly what I want that book to be, something that lifts up your spirits, gives you some of that positive energy, makes you hopeful. You see color, you see art, you see nature, um, and just kind of stimulate your creative mind. And so it's helped a lot of people, and I'm incredibly humbled and grateful for that.
Isn't it cool that your legacy is going to be sitting on somebody's coffee table in 20 years from now, and they're going to pick up your book and who's Anne? I don't think, but they're going to recognize it through you, and it's pretty cool to leave a
Mhm.
legacy like that.
It is very cool, actually. It's very fulfilling, and I think that was one of the reasons, also why I did it. Not just because it was, people were asking for a book, but um, because I really do want to know that I've helped people, that I've given them some good news, some positive information, positive talk radio, right, Kevin?
That's
Positive feelings, positive lift. I feel like that was what my job was to do here as a human being, is to kind of share my own warmth and bubbliness with people. But I'm also, as you know, an academic and a philosopher, so it's like this is the way to do it. And it's been, it's really fun, and it's very cool actually. And now when I read other similar kinds of material from, it's like the 19th century, the 20th century, I'm like, oh, huh. So you stumble across a poet or something that you really love. Like, you never know. This might even happen to someone now and maybe even after I'm not here anymore. So yeah, it's kind of exciting.
well, I find out more about people by reading their bios and stuff. I had no idea that you loved medieval history as well.
Told you it is a resume thing. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, yes. I got two bachelor's degrees when I was first in college. One of them was in history. I really wanted to teach university, and I had a life situation delay between college and grad school that went on for a few years. But I came back. I did my graduate degree in medieval history, and I focused my thesis, award-winning thesis, by the way, on medieval women writers very specifically,
Did they even
because
have those at the time?
barely, which is kind of the point. So, as you know, I'm always championing women's causes, and having come from an awkward and strange background myself, freedom of expression is very important to me. And so, so the thing was that back then, almost no one would actually put their name to a book. If you were a woman, first of all, they were kind of kept, even the elite were in some ways kept intentionally illiterate as a control.
Yep.
The church and the husbands and everybody, that was all you need. If you were literate, it just meant that you could make a shopping list and write personal letters, correspondence. That was all you would ever use it for. Maybe read your Bible or something, but that was it. And I ended up focusing primarily on medieval English women who were writers. And the funny thing was, if a woman does put her name on a book from that time period, and this is like 13, 14, 1500s, especially 13, 1400s, that it's definitely a woman, because it was so risky to put your name on there. And we don't even know how many authors were women who just used male pseudonyms, pen names for books during
Yeah.
all time, because that would get attention and be taken seriously. So I picked 5 women for this thesis that were extraordinarily exceptional. Um, each one of them had a really unique personality, a really unique story, and really stood out. And still, they were really about the only 5, quote unquote, what we call, say, published, distributed medieval women writers in England in that 200 to 300 year period. Incredible, 5.
Wow. That is something. And in those days, you as an actor could not be an actor because
Oh
you weren't
no,
a man.
Yep,
And
exactly.
even the female roles were played by men.
Yep, even into Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That was amazing. I wanna know who played Kate in Taming of the Shrew.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, that would be probably you can find out.
Well, because see, I played Petruchio in
Amazing.
Taming of the Shrew, and at one point he has to kiss Kate. Now, I want to know how they did that because there's not a man on this earth that I would want to kiss on the lips. I'm sorry.
That was a very, very perfect and artistic way to say that. Yes, no, I could totally imagine. Yeah, so interesting. But that's always been acting though, because even if you're a woman and you're cast in a movie, and maybe you don't like the person opposite you is great or unattracted to them, or and you still have to kiss them too. So that's always awkward.
I can, I can only imagine. But we need to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm I'm going to ask Anne if she ever had to do in her acting world a makeout scene or a kissing scene, and the guy comes up to her and it was right after lunch, and he says, "I'm sorry, I had onions on my burger, but we'll get through it." We'll we'll be right back.
You're listening to Positive Talk Radio. We're going to take a short break to tell you audio and music creators about our commercial affiliate, Lyric Vids, specializing in creating amazing and engaging lyric videos. Are you looking to promote your videos in the most engaging way, but you don't have an animator and an editor? Whether you're an artist, musician, or business with a message to share, our lyric videos are designed to hook viewers and amplify your reach. Go to positivetalkradio.net/lyric vids. That's positivetalkradio.net/LYRICVIDS now to get started. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. We hope you enjoyed learning about our affiliate Lyric Vids, who specialize in creating captivating animated lyric videos. Now let's get back to the show.
And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin McDonald, but you knew that. And if you didn't, you do now. And we're talking with Anne Scottlin. She is an actress, and she's an author, and she's a podcast host, and she's a podcast creator, and she's a gardener. She does all kinds of wonderful things. and it's great to have her here. I met her. It's been several years now, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say about at least 3 years, or about 3 years this fall, maybe this summer.
Exactly. So, I remember when I was doing Taming of the Shrew, and the gal who played Kate was not my cup of tea. And my fiance was also in the cast.
Mm.
And so it was rather uncomfortable to do that whole kissing thing and stuff. Did you have to do that in any of the roles that you played?
Of course. That's just like, that's just par for the course in acting. I mean, I'll tell you what's almost more awkward is when when they want you to do it in your acting class, which sometimes they don't push you if you're married, but they figure, oh, she must still be able to do that. But because it's someone well, it's weirder. If you have to kiss someone in your class, it's like one of your best friends, like just some person that and then it's like, okay, the teacher says you're going to do this scene, and it has a physical scene in it. It is a little bit weird. Yes, I did have to do fairly early on several kissing scenes in some of the early things I was doing, which was Discovery ID TV, those reenactment stories. That was a bit fun. But one of the other earliest ones was also in a movie I was cast in opposite a girl.
Oh.
So that was interesting too. That was a whole different cup of tea, if you will. So
she's calling.
Something. I'm like, what is that? Anyway.
Well, see, and that wasn't that long ago, but even still, that was a real rarity because, of course, I remember the first time, and I'm going to test your trivia knowledge here. The first time a white man and a black woman kissed on screen. Do you remember when that was?
I'm gonna say I can't tell you who they were, but I would
It
say
was a TV
within
show.
it's a TV show, early 70s.
Yeah, late 60s, and it was William Shatner and the gal who played Uhura, the
Yes, because
communication.
I've seen that in a documentary and how much chaos that created.
Oh, it
Um,
was a big deal back then.
yeah, incredible,
Of course,
incredible.
remember, this is in the late 60s, and there were still places in the grand old United States of America where interracial marriage was still not legal.
Yeah,
Can you believe that?
well, and we still had segregation.
Yeah.
I mean,
We
it's
were.
just mind blowing. It's just mind blowing to me.
We've changed so much over time. It really is. We have lived in the most fabulous time in the history of the world. I think I was born in the prior to you by a bunch, but 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 still we've gone through a lot of stuff in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and forward. I still have trouble believing that 1990 was 30 years ago. That was 30, but there are people that have no idea what life was like back then and stuff. In any event, so did you, in your act, were there any roles that you took or that you decided not to take because they were going to ask you to do something that wouldn't play well at home, as they say?
Um, it never got quite that far where it was I don't even remember because if I did, which is possible, it was just an absolute no kind of thing. Like it wasn't even an issue. Like it didn't even, it wasn't a big famous cast, or I probably would have because, one of the things that they've done now with Screen Actors Guild just in the last very few years, probably 3 or 4 years, is they now require on set. Oh, it was after Me Too, which had all kinds of really legitimate problems exposed. There's actually, if you have any romantically physical contact in a film or a TV show, you have to have an intimacy coach on set.
I've heard that. That is so
Yeah.
cool.
And it is really cool because in the old days, there's stories I won't bother with now, but some pretty horrible things have happened. And the pressure from the director, the producer, the camera people, the crew was immense, especially with women, to go, to push way what they'd ever signed up for, go way beyond. So it's a really good thing that has developed one of those other good, healthy things. I will tell you one of my, one catastrophe, if you will, which wasn't quite a catastrophe, but in my character, I had to do pole dance.
Oh, yes.
Well, not only can I not pole dance, I can't even dance. And I took a coaching session or two. It's like some people do it literally for exercise, like it's good go to a gym and you just take, the class and whatever. And fortunately, it was a small scene and I was just terrible. I couldn't do it. It was so hard and not to mention awkward. So in the end, I think they clipped it down to about 1.5 to 1 second. And then they just panned over to the professional pole dancers in the background in the scene to
Right.
imply. I was like, okay. I mean, obviously, if it had been a role of a lifetime, which this wasn't, it was TV, but if it had been really a role of a lifetime, you would have had to just spend enormous amounts of time and money and coaching to do it. But so yeah, sometimes even when you say yes, it doesn't always work out quite the way you'd hoped.
Exactly. And the interesting thing, I've talked to a lot of actors and actresses in the last couple 3 years. And one of the things that, so see, people who live in fantasy land, who like to go to a movie, and if, as a matter of fact, if you see, as an example, a naked guy like in Dances with Wolves, and a naked guy is walking away from you, and you think, boy, that Kevin Costner sure does have a nice bum. That's not him.
No.
I had a guy tell a stunt double. He was a stunt double, and he said, "Yeah, I was one of 4 guys that we had to go into a trailer, and this particular actor that he would not name said he got to pick which butt he was going to use as his."
So it's like a butt audition.
Yeah, yes, exactly. They said, "All right, everybody, turn around, drop your pants," and then he picked the guy that he was the suitable derriere that he wanted to show
To
the world,
portray. That
but
is
it
just
wasn't even him.
hilarious. That is hilarious. Yeah. Well, there's that benefit of the smoke and mirrors that the movies have and television to make things appear different than they are sometimes.
Exactly. But I want to know who got chosen for that role, and would they tell anybody? It's like, oh, my scene's coming. So oh, there's my butt. See, right there. And
Probably yes, because they would be in the credits, probably way far down, because people don't really want you to know, the producers, that that they use someone, but you might be in there somewhere. But yeah, you would probably do it, depending on what you were seeing. You would probably invite your family and friends.
well,
no, for me, no, no.
no.
I made my husband promise not to watch any of those scenes, and he was very happy to comply. He's like, "Oh, I just don't want to know. Do what your job is. Leave me out of it."
I gotta say that would be the hardest thing if you
Yeah.
were like your spouse, and intellectually, that they have to do this because it's in the
Yeah, it's their
role, and they're getting
job. Yeah.
paid their job, and they're getting paid hopefully pretty well and stuff. But intellectually, that, but emotionally, you don't. It's
Yes.
hard,
No.
especially if you do things in a certain way that you don't do at home. I can imagine that can be a problem.
Well, it's really funny. And I never accepted any sex scenes. I thought, for me, that was, especially being married and everything, that is where I drew the line. I mean, as far as, occasional kissing or things, that's, I kind of was okay with that. But beyond that, for me, it was just a no. It was a personal choice. There's plenty of other people who are more than happy to do it. So by all means, give them the job. They earned their money, and good for them. But yeah, there's a time and a place for everything, right? But
Exactly. Now, before we leave the acting world, I wanted to get your take on this, because I think it's important that every parent that's out there, that if you've got a kid, a preteen, teen, or even a young adult, if you are a young adult, taking an improvisational acting class is really a good way for you to expand your horizons, and to really teach you how to think on your feet and how to really act in a certain way. And did you take improvisational acting, and did it
oh
help
yeah.
you?
Oh my goodness, enormously. I was able to study at Groundlings and several of the other really famous schools in Los Angeles. And yes, and I highly recommend it to anyone. In fact, there were even people there, not, there's an exception, not the rule, who were from other businesses and industries that were coming in there just for that purpose. And there's always a stand-up, or not stand-up, there's always classes in your local environment where you can usually find how to do that, where you can take some classes. It doesn't have to be in Los Angeles. But improv is a really interesting tool. A lot of speakers, a lot of people who are in the news, anyone who's challenged with public speaking. I think Toastmasters is one of those things, and they have their own format, but I think there's a lot of people that have done Toastmasters that have also done improv, because it really does help you think on your feet. I think the alternative could be, if you were actually, which nobody seems to really want to do anymore, on a debate team in high
That's right.
school or
Yeah.
college,
Do they
because
even have those?
I mean, I've been dying to be on one for my entire life, and I've not done that yet, Kevin.
You're young. You've got lots of time. By the way, we're talking with Ann Scottlin. Go to AnnScottlin.com to find out all about her. And if you want to be a podcaster, I know somebody who knows somebody who can help you do that. We need to take a quick break. We're going to be right back with more with Ann.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Ann Scottlin is our guest. She's a good friend of mine. In addition to all the stuff that she does, she's just a phenomenal human being. She's got a great heart, and she does things to help people in a myriad of ways. And it's just great to have you here. I've invited you here because of the Brushwood Media Network and all the things that we're doing with them, and they're actually going to be coming up with a billboard that I'm gonna my face is going to be on a billboard. I don't know. But in any event, you are here, and you're just wonderful, and it's great to have you here. We really need to do some co-hosting of some shows and doing some fun stuff together. That would be good.
We do. We really do. There's just so much potential there, and I've been thinking a lot about that lately with for some of my podcast clients too. Offering them different picture, but like a co-hosting experience, maybe in their first season to get them up and rolling as part of the training. But I think Kevin, yeah, you're one of the biggest hearted people I know, and when you find those people that get your vibe, that have your same vision and mission in the world, even if that's a general one, to make it a happier place that's worth living in, to know people that help people remember they're not alone, and someone legitimately actively wants to help them find solutions, then that's always something that gets me excited. And I know it does the same for you.
It does indeed. So talking to someone like you is just a lot of fun. And there was one of my associates that I wanted to meet you, and so she was going to come, but she got sick at the last minute. So
no.
But I really wanted her to meet you because you have got a type of energy that is really effervescent, if you will. And it helps people. When you walk into a room, people know Ann's here, kind of thing, because of your vibration and your energy and the goodness that you have in your heart for a lot of people, and you listen well, and it just makes it a great it's a great experience to work with you. And I would highly recommend, by the way, if you want to start a podcast, I'm not going to help you much because I don't have time, but Ann does have, and she will help you. And the idea is that being a host of a podcast show, if you don't have the experience of doing it for a while, can be a very intimidating, difficult thing. And to have a co-host who actually knows what she's doing so that she can fill in the gaps. Like if you run out of things to say, or it's like dead air is horrible on a podcast. Now you can always edit that out, but it's always much better if it flows nicely. And
Yeah.
you can help somebody bridge that gap to get through
Mhm.
that until they get on their feet.
Absolutely. And that's the objective. I mean, if I do co-host with people, it's usually a temporary, if they're really brand new and they want that, or they're not ready for guests quite yet, to kind of, lend the energy and the vibe that gets them moving in the right direction. But ultimately, I really want it to be about them. So giving them the tools they need, but also keeping it really simple. And you know me, Kevin, I don't know, it's a personality thing, but if I do something, I like to really do it. So the kind of podcasts I help people with are world class people who want a world class podcast. They want to have a global influence, a global voice. It's important for them in sharing their information that they have. And so it's not just for kicks and giggles. And, it's more, I teach them how to present, how to speak, how to have the right lighting, the sound, the microphones, everything. Um, you want, if you have a really valuable message, then in most cases, you want it to be taken seriously. So while I could, I'm sure, have fun working with people who are, I don't know, I don't do R-rated or PG-13 either, even. People like in the more goofy versions of these things, then but if you really want to be taken seriously, if you want to be a thought leader in your field, I love to do that. And if you already have a podcast or you're thinking about having a podcast for free, you can just come listen to my show, which is called Launch It, the Podcast Maestro.
There you go. There you go. Because I don't know that I'm sure you know the statistic that people kill me because they're like, I'm gonna do a podcast. I'm gonna do a podcast. I'm gonna do a podcast. I'm gonna have fun. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna make $1 million. I'm gonna be the next Joe Rogan. That's right. They're gonna buy my stuff for $100 million. That's what's gonna happen. Boy, I tell you what. And then they do 10. And then they go, this is hard. This is tough. How do I do 20? There's something that is now in the English language. It's called podcast fade. It's when podcast fade is when you go, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to, maybe not so much. Maybe this is too hard. I'm not going to do this. And then now that you know what the newest thing is, and which I'm really happy that a lot of these platforms are doing, is if you haven't posted anything in 90 days, they take you down.
Ooh.
Because there are a lot of podcasts that are to have like 5 or 7 or 10. And a lot of people waste a lot of time on tuning into something that just isn't right or isn't very good. And rather so they're taking some of those down so that the ones that actually work, like I have over 800, you have a bunch. It's important um, to keep doing it and keep being out there.
Yeah,
And
the consistency is a big thing. So some people might come to me and say, "Hey, I'm a professor. Let's just use history because I love history. I'm launching a new book, and I want to do a mini series of 10 video podcasts to discuss the issues, to discuss the book, and give people kind of an idea of what it's about and go into some detail. And I'm going to do this as sort of like a test, and we'll see if people like it. And if they do, then I might do more afterwards. So the idea is you could do a mini series, but that's not going to create your influence. That would be for people who already know who you are. But if you want to create an influence, then yes, consistency, absolutely. And I find people find it so hard if they get behind the ball, they don't, or guests don't show up, or just getting guests weekly. Nobody thinks about how much time and effort that is. Even one of the things that I teach people is how to make sure your guests' tech is set up to keep your show world class. Because you might be able to control most of your own environment, but if you're having guests every week, then that's a whole different ball of wax. So my tip for anyone out there who's already podcasting, especially video podcasting, since it's more than just sound, is I always, in advance of every guest, I always do on a previous date, I do a tech check. So either I or my producer get on with the person. We run through a test link. We run through their lighting. We sometimes say, pick a different room. Let's set this up. All of that is done way in advance. And the idea is that they just repeat on the day of the production. So if you want to kind of take it to the next level, if you know, I like to have a sort of a TV vibe. That's my vibe. I come from that business, right? So, it's one thing if you're great, but then your guest is fuzzy and dark and looks like they have no lights on, then that's a problem.
Well, and we do the same thing. We do what we call our 15-minute meeting. And it's a opportunity for us to do actually two things. One is to make sure that their equipment is right, but also to determine whether or not, as as an example, I had a guy do a 15-minute meeting with me. He could not say the F word.
Oh,
As often as I said, we're FCC compliant. You can't do it. Go watch George Carlin, The 7 Words You Can't Say on TV. And that's essentially what it, and he said, yeah, well, I am who I am, and this is who I am, and I'm a Phil and stuff. And it's like, do you not get it? The fact that I can't have you on the show. Years ago, I had when I was doing a music show, radio stations, as you know, have got what's called a 7-second delay.
mhm.
And they have that delay so that they can edit out things that are not supposed to be there. If somebody says a bad word or something. Well, I was doing a live music show at a venue. It was at in Ballard, where I live, the High Dive it was, which is where Nirvana played, and all of those guys back in the grunge guys, they all played those things. And this guy could not say the F word over the loudspeaker in the microphone between songs. And so the board operator every time that you hit the 7-second delay, it then becomes, they take a second out. So now it's a 6-second delay. And then it's a 5-second delay. And then
Uh-oh.
he actually ran through the entire delay process. And the board operator said, sorry, it's $100,000 fine if I get caught. So you're off the air, pal. And so he canceled.
Wow.
And so there's lots of things like that you really need to have an awareness of,
Mhm,
and to help
mhm.
people through, because it is not. You make it look so easy. It ain't
It
so
ain't. Let me
easy.
tell you. Oh my gosh. Yeah. If anyone even knew, when I start working with them and I start itemizing what, as I'm custom building out a program for them, and they're like, page and page and page. They're like, what? I had no idea. I'm like, yeah. No, it's a very steep learning curve, again, unless you're just kind of doing it for fun in your PJs in the morning, and that's like your whole vibe. So podcasting there's some pros and cons with content, because there are a little more liberties in podcasting than there are in sponsored media, TV, radio, formal films. These films have ratings, TV has ratings, but there are rules, and there are platforms that will pull you down if you have too many bad words, and there's others that will kind of let you coast. So it's a very interesting time right now between, in this country especially, between freedom of self-expression and people's determination to have freedom of self-expression, like I'm just me, and what's considered family friendly, legitimate. It's, for example, on YouTube, if you were going to air your video podcast on YouTube, or you were going to have me have that as one of your outlets using that, then you have to check that box that says, is this content made specifically for children? And you don't want to check that box if you have a normal, clean show, because that raises the standard. AI goes through and combs every word, and you'll get kicked out. So if someone accidentally slips up and says the F word or whatever, or, several of the other worst words, YouTube will just start pulling your stuff down. So, but if you leave it unchecked, meaning, no, this isn't made for, it's confusing. And this is another free tip for people. If you're a podcaster, it's confusing because it says, is this content made for kids? Well, what you think the first time I did it was, is this content safe for kids? Is what I thought. So I checked it because that's how you think. It's a really bad wording, but they mean, are you producing this with the intent that children consume it on purpose as your primary audience? Don't check it, because otherwise you set yourself for like multiple levels of, whatever their own rating system is. And as we know, there's a lot of YouTube with a lot of words on it. So it's a very interesting time to examine. It's kind of the Wild West of media production now.
It really is, but my frame of mind is that I don't want to eliminate any segment of the population from listening to the fine people that I have on and the messages that we deliver, and by using certain words that can be offensive to some. That's all they hear, and they stop hearing anything else that you're saying, because you're saying, did he really say that? I can't believe he said that. My goodness, why did he say that? And so you it becomes a really negative thing. By the way, again, we're talking with Ann Scottlin, and I need to take one real quick 30-second break, and then we will be back for our final segment with her. But I got to tell you, go to AnnScottlin.com, find out all about her, get Live for Joy, the book, book her to be your podcast guru or maestro, as it is. And she's just a lovely human being, and she'll take good care of you, I promise. We'll be right back.
They have your eyes. They have your ears. They have your smile. Now all they need is a little more of your time. Make a difference in your child's life, because anyone can be a father. It takes time to be a dad.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Nice to have everybody here. And by the way, I do need to make this statement, because there are people that I will not say work with them, because I know how good they are. I can honestly say that with you, because I know this to be true, because I don't want one of those letters that says, now you said that they were great, and you know what, they ain't so great. And so you have my stamp of approval 100%.
Thank you. It means a lot, Kevin. Really, it does. And it just makes me always want to stand up for the best possible, most professional service. And I take a lot of joy in doing that, in being a straight communicator with people. If they have issues, then let's either figure those out or not let them feel trapped either. Like, how do you find people, support them, making their podcast or whatever else they're doing? It should be a real joy for them. Notebook, Live for Joy. It should be a joy, and I am hopelessly invested in my client's success. I say hopelessly because I can I get over invested in my client's success. But if you're a potential client, that is really good news for you.
Well, see, and that's the thing. In 2003, when I started doing radio, I fell in love with the medium. I fell in love with being able to communicate with people and to have people that I didn't even know have an impact in their world, in their life. And it's an important thing. If you get that, when you become a podcaster / radio host, and you're doing this for the right reasons, it can be the adventure of a lifetime. And it truly is.
Oh, yes. And it's so much fun. But let me say this. If you don't have the right training or information, check out my podcast about podcasting, among many other podcasts that I have and do. If you're a podcaster or you're a new podcaster and you're getting started in that field, you can get on to like, you're still in single digits in your number of episodes produced when you can start be feeling very miserable. This is a thing. I call it podcast flu.
That's very good.
Yes, because you're like, oh my gosh, my tech didn't work quite right, but people are expecting me to come on and I'm going to stream at this certain time, or you're sick, or your guests don't show up, or listen to my show, you'll hear a bunch of horror stories of, how I've learned the hard way so you don't have to, basically. Yeah, right. So it can become very discouraging and overwhelming. You can feel like you're a slave to your own show. So there's so many things that we do to eliminate those issues and sort of help take the reins so that it's fun. You get to come on, you get to feel like, look like, whatever, $1 million, talk about what gets you excited, and then go on your merry way and know that you're, being syndicated around the world. And you look like it's a world-class act. Like that is a special opportunity. And let me just say, I wish I had been around when I was starting.
Yeah, but you got to learn through the experience of not being
Exactly.
able to do it and then figuring it all out. But now what you can do is you can take your knowledge and give it to somebody that that really has a message. And but I wanted to ask you before we go. There's I have two schools of thought. One is that you need to niche down. Now, if you're a professional and you're going to talk about your book as an example, and you're going to do a 10-part miniseries or a 10-part podcast series, then you're going to niche down to talk about that book. I can't niche down to save my life. I have all kinds of people on. I love talking to different types of people all the time, and that gets me into trouble a lot. But
yeah, no, it's a business conflict, but there's different ways of managing it, right? For most people, niching down is the best chance at the best monetization. That's just a fact. It's just the way it is. However, if you already have a show, if you're already a celebrity or a known person and people already respect you and you're already getting a lot of views, then it becomes less important. There are mainstream guys on radio, on podcasts, guys and gals who also do all over the map kind of, but I think the point is you have to find what works for you and you have to decide what's most important. I just talked about this recently on an episode. You have to decide if what's most important is you getting the message out that you're passionate about, no matter what. If you have a burden on your heart for children or for, someone who is mentally challenged, or like, this is like, I don't care if I make money or I don't make money. This is a mission for me. Like, this is something that has to be done. That's kind of its own niche. It's a passion project, right? And some of the best work out there and some of the best things done are passion project. If you're business first, then it's a little more challenging because, the numbers talk. But I think that there's also a happy medium. That's, if anything else, that's where I like to live, because I like to obviously have to make money and survive, but I also like to make the world a better place, to help people, to nurture people, encourage them, give them guidance, coaching, direction, whatever it is they need. So I think there can be a balance. It's just a matter of strategy. And that's one of my favorite things to do. So if we'll have a strategy session one day, Kevin, I'll be happy to do that because I love it. It's like, yeah, my addiction.
what turns me on the most, I should probably not use that term, but
my mom did recently, and I went, Mom. I was like, don't say Mom.
what makes me happy is when
Yes.
I get somebody that responds and says, I had a lady respond the other day, then sent a message and she said, he makes me laugh. And so when I go to the office and the girls say, why are you smiling? She says, because I was just with Kevin. And so things like that.
I love that.
things like that make me smile. So Ann Scottlin has been our guest. She's going to have to come back again, and go to AnnScottlin.com. And anything you'd like to add before we go? We've got real quick.
It's a crazy world. Take care of yourself and show love to others, because it'll make your life better.
I wish I'd have said that. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. That's